6, I was overlooked because I was a girl. When I was 11, I was weaker because I was a girl. When I was 13, I was fast for a girl. When I was 15, our soccer team was good, for a girls' team, I mean. Why is it that I will always be judged as less athletic or physically less capable because I'm a girl? Gender inequality in sports doesn't start when you turn 18. It starts the moment you can run. It starts before elementary school and continues through middle school, high school, and honestly, forever. It never ends. Professional female athletes get paid so much less than men, lack power, and are often sexualized. Gender inequality in sports has made huge strides such as equal scholarship money for female athletes, but I fear that many people are unaware of how relevant and prominent sexism in sports still is. So today, I'm going to take you on a journey of many battles female athletes encounter from a young age. Before I begin, I want to say that I have been well supported by male and female coaches. However, not everyone was as lucky as me, and many female athletes do not have the same access to support or resources as men. So I'll share a bit of my story today, but also those of others. What I found interesting is that the physical capabilities between a girl and a boy before puberty is next to none. But due to sexism, it felt like that wasn't true. I was a little kid who liked helping the teacher out. I liked organizing things, moving things, and whatever else I could do that allowed me to move. I had a lot of energy as a kid. I once ran 80 laps around the inside of my house because I was tired. And trust me, my dad counted. I loved playing sports and being competitive. I always wanted to win. It was just who I was and who I still am. Let's just say that sexism in sports added to my competitiveness. I'll give you an example. When I was 9, I decided that I wanted to do triathlon because my aunt did the Toronto one and it looked like fun. It started off well. I swam, then biked, and I was proud. Then we had to run 1 kilometer. 20 meters from the finish line, there was this boy who was neck and neck width. I wanted to beat him so badly, so I ran my heart out and I did. But the point I'm trying to get across is that by the age of 9, I felt like I had something to prove because I already knew that girls were stereotyped as weaker than boys. I already had what society thought of me put into my head. But it's not only in sports that people underestimate girls. I've had discussions with my female peers about how we would be overlooked for a heavy lifting job because a boy volunteered. It was normally quite subtle. For example, a teacher asks for 3 people to help carry books, and she decides to pick 2 boys and 1 girl because then they can reassure themselves they aren't being sexist. Which could be true if it was just random, but you have to wonder why they didn't choose 2 girls and 1 boy. As I said earlier, I loved helping out, and when I wasn't chosen due to the fact that I was a girl, I felt frustrated because I knew it really didn't matter. I was as strong. By the age of 11 or 12, we were separated by gender in gym class instead of skill level because the boys were too good to play the girls. At this point, a lot of kids did start to hit puberty, which causes physical changes. Sort of makes sense that we were separated, but also doesn't since many girls were as good as the boys. I'm athletic, so I was one of the few girls who got to play with the boys. However, they rarely did pass to me because I was a girl, and when they did and I scored, they seemed surprised. Allowing the better girl athletes to play with boys is stereotyping that all boys are better sports than most girls. I think that it would be better to divide teams by actual athletic skill instead of presuming athletic ability based on gender. Secondly, in high school, resources available for girl and boy athletes are not always equal, which can become very discouraging for girls. A 2008 study by the U.S. Women's Sports Foundation found that by the age of 14, many girls started to drop out of sports. Girls actually dropped out of sports at double the rate of boys. Many facilities that girls use to train are not as good as the boys, and depending on the community, there may be a lack of highly qualified coaches, and if there are some, they may be working with the boys' team since they have more money for training. As well, equipment and uniforms are not always funded for girls' teams, whereas they are for boys at the exact same level. My point is that the boys' teams in sports are prioritized over the girls. If you are a girl and have not been discouraged to quit yet, then the next level is university teams to coach or to play professionally. I'm first going to talk about university and coaching. The scholarships for women have improved a lot in the US and Canada, but there are still many issues. In 1972, in the US, a regulation called Title IX, which states that athletic scholarships must be substantially proportionate to the respective rates of enrollment of full-time undergraduate students. So if a college is 55% female, then 55% of the athletic scholarship money must go to female athletes. Even though Title IX was created in 1972, there's still a large gap between scholarships amount. As well, collegiate institutions spend just 24% of their athletic operating budgets on female sports, as well as just 16% of recruiting budgets. Not only that, for every dollar a head coach of a men's college team makes, a women's college team makes 63 cents. The rate of women coaches have dropped significantly. Before Title IX was created, 90% of women teams were coached by women. But when Title IX came out, more money went to women's sports, which meant that they were forced to pay the coaches a lot more. The money drew men to coaching women's sports, and the men were hired. By 2019, only half of the women's teams were coached by women. What if you, a female athlete, want to go professional? Did you know that in 2019, on average, the NBA players were compensated $8 million, but the WNBA got compensated $75,000? The men were paid 100 times more than the women. The gender pay gap in sports such as basketball, golf, soccer, and many others is extremely large. And these women cannot fight for more pay because they earn so little to begin with. Most female athletes have to work a full-time job on top of being a female professional athlete. In 2015, the US women's soccer team won the World Cup, though they were paid a quarter as much as the US men's soccer team that year. Many people say, well, it's because men's sports are more interesting to watch. This sentence has always bugged me because I never knew how to respond to it, because I wasn't informed. Though people think that this is actually caused by the lack of marketing female athletes get. In the United States, you might be surprised that 40% of people who play sports are women, but they only get 6 to 8% of media coverage and only received 0.4% of sponsorships. The role of marketing in sports is to create the connection between viewers and teams or players. This devotion and loyalty leads to viewership, sponsorship, ticket sales, and ultimately revenue. If you still believe that men make more money because they are more interesting to watch, that's your opinion. But did you know that the Women's World Cup in July 2015 was the most watched soccer game in the US history for both female and male, and they had 25.4 million viewers. That year, the women's team generated $20 million more than the men, except they were paid a quarter of the amount the men's team got. Without money, they are powerless to fight back. Role models are so important in life, especially in sports. I have played soccer for more than 10 years, and I have never seen women's professional soccer except the Olympics and FIFA's Cup. Which means for young girls, like I was, it's hard to find role models to follow and learn from. Lastly, women athletes are very sexualized. Think about women's beach volleyball. Many female athletes are showcased by the uniform they wear or their body type instead of being seen as an athlete who has dedicated many hours of her life to their sport. The issue is that by objectifying women, the reputation of female sports decreases. Many female athletes feel they need to embrace being objectified to get more publicity, since as I said earlier, they are not getting much media attention. According to Ben Wasike, a university researcher, women appearing on the covers were likelier than men to be portrayed in a sexualized manner in terms of skin exposure and suggestive poses. Men were likelier to be portrayed in active poses. Many female athletes receive unwanted sexual innuendos and verbal abuse. For example, a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader said that her squad was walking together, waving at fans, and one guy looked at her and said, "I hope you get raped." Getting yelled at like this is not uncommon for them. The Dallas Cowboys were trained how to navigate the situation politely and were told to never upset the fans. This undermines their value as an athlete and diminishes their power. Gender inequality in sports doesn't start when you can run. It starts the moment you can interact with others and understand what they are saying. The amount of support girls get affects how they think about themselves and what they can accomplish in life. When girls get older, the resources such as equipment available to men and women are not equal. Female athletes get very little marketing, they get paid a lot less than men, and they are taken a lot less seriously because they are sexualized and objectified. This is what I call the domino effect for girls in sports. In other words, a chain reaction affecting their mindset. This may sound discouraging to many girls out there, but things have improved and will continue to improve. Don't let any of the challenges that you face as a female athlete make you stop what you love to do. For the rest of you, that is parents, brothers, and sisters, grandparents, coaches, and teachers, remember those little biases hinder and discourage girls from reaching their full potential. Every child, no matter what gender, should have the same chance to cross the finish line. The question is, how are we going to make sure this happens?